Hello and welcome to News Round, a recap of stories that made headlines during the week. Coming up, the Senate to probe CBN's anchor borrower scheme, as well as accountability in the Ways and Means loans by the Apex Bank. Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners suspends nationwide strike after threatening to shut down over the high cost of automobile gas oil, also known as diesel. The Constitution Amendment Bill to introduce state police scales second reading, the House of Representatives. Plus, British woman Shamima Begum, who joined ISIS as a teen, loses challenge against removal of a UK citizenship. I'll begin with the legislature now, where the Senate has resolved to set up an ad hoc committee to investigate the over 22 trillion naira Ways and Means and other intervention programs, such as the 10 trillion naira CBN anchor borrower scheme. This formed part of the resolutions of the Red Chamber after a debate on the report of the National Assembly Joint Committees on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions, Finance, National Planning, Agriculture and Appropriation on the state of the economy.
On the first plenary session of the week in the Senate features a report of the Joint Committees on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions, Finance, National Planning and Appropriation on the state of the economy. The report, which also emerged from an interaction with the President's Economic Management team, recommended the urgent need to bring down inflation.
This issue of high cost of living is real. All of us here operate from the market, whether you go directly or you say your relative or your stewards. My problem, sir, is that the agreements already reached between the federal government and Labour with regards to the 35,000 naira increase the salaries. I was told as of yesterday it was only paid twice. What is happening to the additional naira that is accruing to the federation account?
Even local governments, their grants, their allocations from the federation account has increased. They should also go out there, procure grains and distribute. What we have at hand is not the sole responsibility of the federal government to solve. The entire system must come together, must collaborate to make sure we do the needful.
Before we conclude this debate today, the rate of naira may have moved to 1,900. What does this suggest? We're in a state of emergency when it comes to management of our economy. Something must be wrong.
The debate gathered momentum following recommendations for further investigation into the 10 trillion naira anchor borrower scheme, as well as the federal government's Ways and Means loans. The need for clarity became expedient.
It is classified as obligation, 30 trillion. This debt overhang, Mr. President, is responsible for the problems we're having, which nobody says he knows the detail, how they spent that money, outside 809-something billion, which this Parliament, this Senate, approved.
We have colossal amount of money given to the banks, and this amount runs into trillions of naira. Some of the governors that benefited from that 18 billion naira are here.
Distinguished Senator Ndume, you were there when the Ways and Means were approved.
Check, I was not there, check the record. And as I said, number one, wait now, you cannot, I repeat, you cannot approve illegality. What they did was illegal. The Senate doesn't have the right. Let it be on record. I was not there. I was not there. Check the record. I was not there, but you were there. But I was not there. I was not there.
No one wanted to be culpable, but everyone was interested in the unfolding narrative. However, the former president of the Senate clarified the figures before a resolution is taken.
What the 9th National Assembly approved or ratified in terms of Ways and Means was not 29 or 30 trillion. It was 22. But there was 819 billion to attend to deal and address very serious infrastructural dilapidations that we had across the country. So if we have a ways and means that is 30 today, that means something happened between then and now. And it's for the National Assembly to find out what happened.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that the ad hoc committee be set up to interrogate the details of the ways and means, their disbursements and usage, particularly the intervention programs such as the Anchor Borrowers Program, such as excess funding in the power sector, such as monies given to manufacturers and banks, and the airlines, and etc., to show up, which of course increase the current debt profile of the country.
Now, investigating the legality or otherwise of the Ways and Means loans was just part of the recommendations. The Senate committee also canvassed for more security, technology and incentives to farmers to boost agriculture productivity. Gloria Umezuki, Channels Television News.
And the Senate has also resolved to probe a failed agreement which have seen local manufacturers produce prepaid meters that would be distributed across the nation to better electricity usage. Also to be investigated by the lawmakers is a 2 trillion naira subsidy, which the Minister of Power says would be required to avoid a repeat of the fuel subsidy scenario still bedeviling the nation's economy. These resolutions were part of a motion of public importance by the senator representing Adamawa Central, Senator Aminu Abbas.
Senators on the second plenary for the week took major steps towards debating the planned hike in electricity tariff and arbitrary billing of unmetered customers.
And so he's petitioning this.
The lawmakers argue that the idea, which has spiked fresh agitations among many Nigerians, should be jettisoned.
Why should people be paying for what they did not use? They give people estimated bills. That is where we should focus, and focus on generation and transmission, not increasing the tariffs.
Removal of any subsidy, not to talk of electricity subsidy, will be more than adding petrol to fire.
Many organizations and companies are relocating from Nigeria simply because they don't have energy to drive their organizations.
There were more arguments in favor of the motion before the resolutions were adopted.
Our output now is about 3.5 megawatt. If we object that we are here now, we're expressing blackout. You cannot be dishing out blackout and at the same time be asking people to pay more. I want to use this medium to call on the power holding companies across the nation to keep to their promises of giving Nigerians prepaid meters. They should stop this idea of estimated bills.
Call on the federal government of Nigeria to stand down the increase in electricity, the idea of increase in electricity tariff, under the Committee on Power to investigate the over 2 trillion naira subsidy requirements as stated by the Minister of Power to avoid the repeat of fuel subsidy scenario. Those who are in support of the amended prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have.
By the same token, some lawmakers appealed to the Senate to intervene in the hike in the price of cement.
Key building materials, particularly cement and iron rod prices, are now sold at prohibitive rates, with cement and iron rod recently rising from 5,500 per bag in January 2024 to about 15,000 and 8,500 to 17,000 respectively.
Continuing with the business of the day, the bill for an act to establish the Southeast Development Commission passed second reading.
Many things were destroyed during the Civil War, Mr. President. This Southeast Development Commission will be very useful in addressing the infrastructural deficits in the southeast of Nigeria.
The bill to establish development commissions in other regions, including the Southwest and North Central, equally passed second reading.
The ayes have it. Accordingly,
Meanwhile, the Senate confirmed the appointment of Dr. Kelechi Ohiri as Director General of the National Health Insurance Authority, as well as 19 appointments to the National Population Commission. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
And to other matters now, the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners has suspended its planned nationwide strike following a meeting with the Minister of State for Petroleum and other stakeholders in the oil and gas sector. NARTO members had threatened to commence an indefinite strike on Monday owing to the rising cost of transporting petroleum products from the depot to fuel stations across the country. Meanwhile, members of the natural oil and gas suppliers of Nigeria are asking the federal government to urgently address the exchange rate disparity.
Thank you. This meeting between the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources and members of the Nigeria Association of Road Transport Owners, Natural Oil and Gas Suppliers Association of Nigeria, and other stakeholders in the oil and gas sector is a follow-up to Monday's meeting aimed at stopping the planned strike by members of NATO. Today's meeting held behind closed doors. After about an hour of deliberations, journalists were re-invited into the meeting room where both the Minister of Petroleum Resources and the NATO President announced the suspension of the planned strike.
After, consultation with all stakeholders, we have come to the conclusion that the strike will be called off, or had been called off. You see the President of NATO here. We also have other stakeholders that are here. All the issues they raised have been addressed. And I've also given commitment on behalf of government that going forward, whatever government is expected to do will be done. We'll keep our own commitments. And we've started paying some of the bridging claims that, they raised yesterday. And as we get more money, we'll continue to pay them.
Even though we do not get what we want 100%, but at least there is some movement. And to look at the pains of the general public, Nigerians, everybody, and go back to normal work. Going forward, we'll continue to negotiate with the marketing companies based on the economic realities.
Earlier in the day, the Natural Oil and Gas Suppliers Association of Nigeria had asked the federal government to urgently address the disparity in the exchange rate, which it says is impacting negatively on their services.
Let the government come out and say 500 naira to $1 or 200 naira to $1, whatever rate that they come out with, they should stand.
Governments should act fast, at least before the end of the month, adjust something fast. Otherwise, by the end of the month, the way things are, we don't need to go there and say we're withdrawing service. On its own, service will withdraw.
The rising cost of living in Nigeria has largely been attributed to the high cost of diesel, petrol, and the continuous fall of the value of the naira, a situation that many citizens want the government to urgently address.
And when Newsround returned, Shamima Begum, who joined ISIS as a teen, loses appeal over UK citizenship. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Well, a Constitution Amendment Bill to introduce state police has scaled second reading in the House of Representatives. The bill, which is sponsored by 13 members of the House and joint support from the majority of lawmakers, believe that concerns of political victimization by state governors should take backseat due to the current state of insecurity across the country. Meanwhile, the House has passed a resolution to investigate the exodus of multinational companies from Nigeria.
The House of Representatives commences the constitution amendment process with debate on a bill to introduce state policing.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to...
State police has been a subject of controversy since the 7th Assembly and has failed to make it through the amendment phase. This time it enjoyed more support from lawmakers.
Amending the Constitution to allow the state policing is not only a step towards true federalism, but also an acknowledgement of the diverse security challenges that vary from one state to another.
Mr. Speaker,
Today, the UN density for police is 4:1. We have a population of 200 million people, and the number of our policemen are under 400,000. It is appalling indeed.
So many states we have security outfits. When they come out in their uniform, it gives impetus to the communities.
Concerns about how state governors will take advantage of the policing system under their control is still rife among some members, especially as they reflect on existing security outfits in some states and regions.
Many states, Mr. Speaker, do not even qualify to be states as it's today economically. Many states may need to be merged, let alone to be saddled with the issue of state police.
Regardless, the bill scales second reading.
Provide for establishment of state police and for related matters, second reading.
In the meantime, the House is to investigate the closure and exodus of multinational companies in Nigeria.
Collaborate with the private sector to develop policies that will stimulate economic growth and create job opportunities in the country. Prioritize investments in the infrastructure and power sectors. Provide tax incentives to encourage businesses and investors to invest in Nigeria.
The federal government is further urged to prioritize investment in the infrastructure and power sectors, provide tax incentives to encourage businesses and investors to invest in Nigeria. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
And staying with security matters, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State has declared his support for state policing, which the bill has just scaled its second reading in the House of Representatives. He says Lagos State has enough manpower to kickstart its own policing. Governor Sanwo-Olu stated this, among other issues, in an immediate chat at the Lagos House in Marina.
Maybe he's speaking to systemic failure, and I mean, these buildings are already up. It's either somebody in the system is complicit of not doing their job or there's clear inefficiency.
There could be, failure of government, and I'm taking responsibility in terms of being efficiently, proactive, to be able to deal with some of those nuisances.
This is the first media chat Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is holding with select broadcast stations at the Lagos House Marina.
Can we even be creative and have a flexible working hour?
The Lagos State Governor begins by addressing the economic challenges, especially high cost of living as it affects many residents of the state. He reels out his plans to tackle the situation.
Transport cost is also a major pain that our citizens are. So almost immediately from this weekend, we're throwing back a 25% reduction on all public transportation. But we're working with the various unions to ensure that we also can support them. But on our BRT, on our trains, on our ferry services, you are going to begin to enjoy that almost immediately from this weekend.
Continuous provision of quality healthcare services is also top priority for the government.
All our 31 general hospitals will be given free child delivery. Either during normal birth or cesarean birth, we will take up the cost so that we reduce the pressure on our people almost immediately. We are also working with them to reduce the cost of some particular types of drugs, hypertension, diabetes, and we can give a rebate at our hospitals.
This media chat certainly gives Governor Sanwo-Olu an opportunity to talk about many issues in one sitting. And after food and health, the governor says there's no stalling in the provision of adequate security.
We're doing a food purchase and redistribution that will cover about 300,000 households, not just individual households, that will have 10 kg rice, 5 kg gari, 5 kg beans, and have other small things like tomato and the rest of it in a combo bag. We're going to be opening, what we call Sunday markets in about 42 markets in Lagos. Sunday market. What you would see in those markets, is the same sort of stable, food item. But this time, you'll be buying at a reduced cost. We're going to cap what you can buy at not more than 25,000, and we'll be giving you a 25% rebate immediately there. So we have started that at our middle market in Ijoro, which you've all seen, but we're taking it to 42 identified markets in Lagos. If they give approval for state police today, I have 10,000 men that I can further train and get them ready, and these are people that know the entire community.
He also announces 3 working days for civil servants from level 0 to 14, while levels 15 to 17 are to resume at their duty posts 4 days in a week. And teachers will continue to work 5 days to educate future leaders in Lagos State.
And the food matters now. The National Economic Council is urging concerted efforts to ensure that local commodities are not dollarized in the face of rising cost of food and other commodities. The council, during its meeting held virtually and chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima, also directed the review of the National Food Security Strategy, among other things, focus on price stabilization.
Thank you very much. The 139th National Economic Council meeting holds virtually and is chaired by the Vice President behind closed doors. After several hours, State House correspondents are briefed on major outcomes of the meeting.
The main feedstock to making urea is gas, and which is a local commodity here in Nigeria, but is being priced in dollar in the international market benchmark. So we attended to the National Economic Council on the need to revisit that issue and the issue of dollarization of a local commodity here in Nigeria. On rice, we intend to cultivate 250,000 hectares, thereby supporting 500,000 farmers, and maize, 55,000 hectares, supporting 110,000 farmers, cassava, 35,000 hectares, supporting 70,000 farmers.
The National Economic Council also deliberated on some national issues, including the matter of state police.
Council resolution resolves that all state governors should submit a memorandum to the NEC for consideration and endorsement by the National Assembly, and same copy forwarded to the National Security Advisor.
In view of the food security situation in the country, the Council discussed the preparedness of the country on flood this year.
Council also received update on the federal account.
Excess crude account, US dollar, $473,754.57. And the natural resources account, 114,343,535,696 naira 46 kobo.
Other measures to be taken to address the current food crisis in the country, as deliberated by the National Economic Council, include the need to introduce the off-taking of rice and cassava from 500,000 farmers supported by the federal government, a move that is expected to bring in at least 1,075 kilograms bags of rice. From the presidential villa, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
And outside our shores now, a woman who left the United Kingdom to join the Islamic State group ISIS has lost her latest bid to overturn decisions by the UK government to strip her of her British citizenship. By implication, Shamima Begum, who flew to Syria at the age of 15 in 2015 with 2 school friends to join the terror group, is to remain in Syria as she stands no chance of returning back to the UK. In a Court of Appeal ruling, Lady Chief Justice Baroness Carr said while the decision in Ms. Begum's case was harsh, it could also be argued that she is the author of her own misfortune. This is the second time Ms. Begum has tried to have the government's decision overturned, and she lost her first appeal in February last year. The Home Office argued she was a risk to national security in 2019, and the military intelligence M15 MI5 assesses this still poses a risk. However, her lawyers have argued she was a victim of child trafficking and their decision was unlawful as it rendered her stateless. For the week, thank you for watching. We now head for the ECOWAS extraordinary meeting in Abuja. Thank you.